think it says live. What's up, guys? It's not corona, but I'm definitely sick. I feel like there's a balloon up here. The weed's helping. Anti-inflammatory properties for the win. And here we are. Would we miss 2 days?
2 days. Maybe was it 3? Was it 2? It was days. We missed days.
I think it was 2 this time. We missed 3 before. But yeah, man, we had to call out sick. Why? Not because the government forced us to, not because they found out that I'm feeling under the weather and they're like, oh, well, you can't move. It was because I have common sense as a human being and I want to keep myself healthy. Yeah?
Yeah.
Did anybody force you to stay inside?
No.
Through your sinus. Well, yours is more in the throat, right?
Yeah, I got a little itch in the throat and a bit of a cough. I don't have a fever. I don't have any of the symptoms. Like, I have some of the symptoms of COVID, but like the major ones, I'm not even that worried about it. It just feels like a fucking mild, super mild cold. I don't think it's COVID.
No, it's allergy season too. And like, that's what and this just struck my mind. Like, it's allergy season. People are going to be getting sick. It's that time of year when people just get sick. And now you've got a lot of people that are paranoid about it possibly being COVID and hearing all these, overblown horror stories in the media. And what does that do to their anxiety levels, yo? This is not good. This is not.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. It's just terrible. Hello, everybody. Now that a few of you are tuning in, I, as always, am the Commander-in-Chief, G.I. Mary Jane. Joined with me is Zig and Zag, who's taking a sweet little nap between us. I'm sure she'll get in on the action here in a minute.
Dog.
And we haven't been on for 2 days because we've both been fighting off some allergies or a head cold or Lord knows what it is. What did you? I drank lots of water. We spent most of the day yesterday kind of sleeping and lazing around, right?
Taking it easy, drinking water.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin A, B, C, and D.
We even whipped out the flower vaporizer pen so that, the smoke wasn't so harsh. But that being said,
boom,
the cannabinoids and terpenes found within nature's most wonderful plant has helped keep the inflammation down. Did you know that cannabis acts as an expectorant?
I didn't expect that.
Didn't expect that, but oh, you want that stuff in the blue bag. Do you guys know what expectorant means? That's what Mucinex does to you, but you can get similar results from cannabis and without poison. I know when I take a Mucinex, I feel like I'm at like some rave in the mid-90s. It's insane. So before we get talking today, we wanted to talk.
Stupid.
We are stupid. What are we talking about today?
Drugs. Fear versus, I guess, consent.
Empathy.
Fear versus empathy.
Fear versus empathy, which all spanned from a post, and I wanted to kind of rant about this yesterday. Oh, pardon me. Gotta reach my pipe here. Wanted to rant about this yesterday, but, the government didn't call me and tell me not to go live. I decided I wasn't feeling good enough to do it because I'm a rational adult who's in charge of my own body and my own health, just like you are. But I made a post yesterday. This is going to be backwards until it gets posted on YouTube. It's a picture of an officer showing a book to a couple of school chillins. And it says, "We will kill you to save you from a virus." Little extreme.
Maybe not. What if they arrest you and you catch the virus and die in jail?
Yeah, what if you were just, paddle boarding out in the bay all by yourself?
What if you went to church or had friends over?
Yeah.
And they put you in jail for it.
So if you go to a group where everybody in the room has consented to being on hand, right, you have to assume that none of them are feeling sick. Because if you feel sick, you don't go out of the house, right? Generally. Unless your boss forces you to, which is the norm, and now all of a sudden it's completely flip-flopped. But yeah, so you take, so let's just say a church where, I don't know, 100 people decide to gather, and it's normally 150, but 50 of them have decided that, I'm going to be safe rather than sorry. That's fine, because they did that by choice. And then all of a sudden, the police come in and shut down that group. And arrest its leader. Arrest its religious leader. It's so much for that freedom of religion thing, right? And then they take you, the officer who's been out in the street and likely more, in front of this virus. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Exposed.
More exposed to the virus, is walking into this church of consenting people who already know that they feel okay to leave the house, putting them in handcuffs, possibly, and taking them in. And it says, we will kill you. And everybody, oh, that's extreme. Well, it's not, because what do you think's going to happen if you say, no, I don't want to be in handcuffs. I did nothing wrong. I wasn't being violent. I don't want to be in handcuffs. They're going to put their hands on you. And if you resist from there, they're likely going to bring their firearms out. And so that's why this meme, it's not really, and the cannabis community has gone through this forever. You know, we'll kill you to protect you from an addiction to a plant that
isn't addictive
scientifically. I wish I could bring up this post, but my phone's acting all sorts of goofy. Maybe I should bring it up on here. But I'm seeing a great divide in the population. You know, so for me, for instance, we've been pretty much quarantined for well over a month now, right?
Well over a month. And when we do go out, we're taking all the proper precautions. We're wearing gloves, we're wearing masks, and we still got caught something. Probably not COVID. It's that time of year. So, I'm curious how many of you are social distancing or physical distancing, and how many of you are doing it because the government told you to, and how many of you are doing it because your neighbors need you to, or because your health needs you to. I mean, are you staying home because the governor said, hey, don't go out? Or are you staying home because there's a pandemic and you don't want to get sick?
It's, and right now people are being shamed for going out when they feel under the weather. You've had the old 9 to 5, right? We've all had to deal with that torture. And you wake up feeling like absolute horseshit one morning, and you call your boss and he can barely understand the words that are coming out of your mouth because you're so congested. What does he normally say?
Come in anyways.
Or we'll fire you. What is going on? Like, why the hypocrisy around that? I just don't understand it, right? That's supposed to be one of the values, right? And I've never co-signed with that. Like, I've had many a fights with the old 9 to 5 bosses. Like, look, I'm not coming in. I'm not putting y'all at risk. I'm not putting my customers at risk. And I'm not going to get any better if I keep coming in there. I'm only going to continue to get more and more sick because my body doesn't have what it needs to regenerate. And now all of a sudden it's completely the opposite. And it's causing the same.
People are actually being shamed for exercising their constitutional rights. It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. And I kind of want to say rest in peace, America, because I don't think it'll ever be the same. When we're seeing diet martial law, men with badges throwing people off buses because they're not wearing a mask. Meanwhile, the police aren't even wearing masks. Well, and it's mind-blowing.
Here's the funny part is the rule is you have to be in some sort of a mask, and a bandana would suffice.
What rule?
But I know what rule. There are little rules they made, right?
The recommendations.
So, the recommendations. But a bandana would suffice, and it's already been proven that a bandana is pretty much ineffective. So they're saying, look, you've got to dress the way we want you to, or you can't go out. It's not even about safety. And they yanked this guy. Was it in Philly?
Something like that.
They yanked this guy out of a bus. I mean, with physical fucking force.
Unmasked.
Unmasked.
Even the police weren't masked.
The one cop had one on, but it was down here.
But it was below his mouth. There were several police that went onto this bus because somebody in there wasn't wearing a mask. And then they ended up walking in. One person wasn't wearing a mask. 4 police officers walk in unmasked and expose everyone on the bus when they didn't need to. And how many of the First Amendment rights have they been violating? Well, they arrested that dude on his own property because he had people over. You have the right to assembly. They arrested that church pastor for hosting a church service. You have the right to religious freedoms and the right to assembly again. They arrested that guy for not wearing a mask on a bus. They threw him off of public transportation, tax-funded transportation. And that you have the right to freedom of expression. All in the First Amendment. The very fucking first one. The first one.
And it doesn't even make sense. And the comment that I made with that post is, the shutdown makes about as much sense as prohibition. So think
Right.
about it. You're required to wear a mask on this bus, but you're not required to wear gloves. So you can go around spreading your germs all over the surface materials within this bus and walk out and still get sick because you touch your face before washing your hands. They're not protecting you from anything. They're just making you do things because they want to, because they want to see if you will lay down and you will comply. And we did it. We did it back in 1937 with cannabis, and we cannot make the same mistake again here in 2020 with all of our freedoms. I mean, this isn't just your right to smoke weed, guys. This is your right to go out of your house when you want to. That's a big freaking
Your right
deal.
to dress how you want, your right to express yourself how you want, your right to practice what religion you want, your right to protest is being stomped on, and it's disgusting.
It's insane. There was a tweet. Some officers broke up. There was a protest. Everybody joined. They followed social distancing guidelines. Everybody had masks on, gloves on. They were standing 6 feet apart in like an alternating grid pattern with their signs. And the cops made this huge thing. They shamed all of these people on Twitter. They kept the public up to date with how they were keeping you protected by threatening violence on the people who were not being violent. And here was what the disgusting part was. I saw, shockingly, 70% disapproval for what the police were doing in this Twitter post. But there was still that 30% saying those people are selfish. They are committing attempted murder. I've even seen that one. Attempted murder for going outside.
You can't commit attempted murder by exposing someone to a virus with a 98% survival rate. That is ridiculous.
It's insane. Bear with me here. You guys, I am sharing on Eel Freedom Laptop. We're trying to keep up with your comments, but the internet's being kind of wonky today.
Well, I can catch up. I think I got some comments here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you get your stimulus check yet?
I did not.
I did not.
I have not. I don't know if I'm getting it. I'm a disabled veteran. I've heard other disabled veterans have gotten it, but I haven't.
Interesting.
So, Richard Nuevo.
I dig that, dude.
I'm staying in because my community needs me to. Because we asked, are you staying in because the government told you to, or because your community needs you to, because your neighbors need you to, because you need you to? And he said he's staying in, not because he's being forced, but because his community needs it. And Jonathan Stout agreed. That's pretty fucking obvious, don't you think? We don't need the government to tell us that we need to stay in during a global pandemic. We don't need that. We're doing it with or without them recommending it. Private sector was shutting down before the governors even decided to do it. They were putting X's on the floors at 6 feet apart before the governor even, at least here in Arizona, before the state even shut down. Essential businesses already had, gyms that already closed. So we didn't need the government to tell us to protect ourselves, and we don't need the government to protect us from ourselves. That's ridiculous. You guys are all responsible for your own health, your own safety, not them.
Jonathan Stout says, come join for weed users or growers. He posted a link to his group, We Love Marijuana. I think that's a good segue into my next bitch of the day. Marijuana's groups.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we had a group fiasco this morning.
So what does a group named Quarantined Potheads say to you? When you go in there, what do you think that you might see?
I think I might see a bunch of potheads trying to connect with each other while they're in quarantine, try to share ideas and advocate for each other.
Through the wonders of technology, even for those of us that are literally getting arrested for leaving our house, we can still connect with each other online. And I think having a group where potheads in particular, or, you know, people who drink beer, whatever, so that it's compartmentalized into the like-minded, so you can connect on a different level. I mean, I think that's great, right? I think that's great. So what do? I don't know. There's like 11,000 people in this group, Quarantined Potheads. And we've been sharing our live feeds in there pretty much every day.
Oh, yeah.
Which hasn't been a problem. But today I tried to post a heads up to the live feed coming up. And I got banned from the group.
Yeah, so it's okay to share the live feeds, but not share, hey, we're gonna go live.
And the answer was no self-promotion. Well, if you're trying to connect quarantine potheads with other quarantine potheads, they all kind of need to self-promote themselves in order to connect, right? Isn't that kind of how this math
The
works?
excuse they gave to me was if they don't make these rules, then Facebook will shut them down, which sounds like a huge cop-out. Like, what? Are you fucking kidding? Facebook's gonna shut you down because G.I. Mary Jane shared a live video? Or, no, that...
Or Bob Smith, or, you know, little Jane somewhere out in the middle. I don't care who shares a video.
Go hit them up, quarantine potheads.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of admins. Let them all know what you think. Hit share on this video.
The important thing right now is connectivity and lighters. Definitely lighters.
Oh, lighters.
But no, Jonathan Stout, thank you for sharing your group. I just joined. My request is pending. Just saying. Oh, we have ghosts. Let's just get rid of it. Let's just put it over here for right now. I don't feel like standing up because I'm sick, you guys. Wow, that really messed up the color, didn't it? That is crazy. That is crazy. Speaking of color, we do need to get... Oh, Jonathan, this is a great group.
Happy 420.
Happy 420. So let's see. We Love Marijuana is a group. This is a social group for marijuana users of all types, growers, smokers, to learn new ways of growing, of smoking, either or all. I ask is, please be polite to each other. Thanks again.
That's a lot to ask.
Thanks again. Looking for admins to help admin the site. I dig your logo. I kind of want to put that on a shirt, but it's not mine. You put that on a shirt, Jonathan, and let's see if we can't get that out. No, I dig this, especially now because people are going to be quarantined, and a lot of people are going to be, I would guess, experimenting with maybe growing for the first time.
Yeah, why not? Got nothing but time.
Nothing but time. So this would be a group where you can get some awesome tips. A lot of people think that it's pretty easy to grow marijuana. It's not. It's absolutely not. Hey, that worked, I think. Can you guys see us a little bit better? I see Pastor Pete Yeeple tuned in. Pete,
Yeeple.
this hit's for you. When are you getting here, brother? When are you getting here? We're sitting here at the Garden of Freedom. Team and the Fed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about half a dozen of us here. We're waiting for more people to come. And we are in the process of building that self-sustaining community that I think is truly the definition of the American dream. I mean, not having bills, not having to be, you know, slave to somebody else's dream. And
yeah, I'm not here making anyone else rich. That's refreshing.
It is refreshing that you're getting to exercise your passions without making other people rich.
And I think it's important to point out that in most places in America, it's actually illegal to live off-grid. How silly is that? You cannot live off-grid. No, they are going to force you to have power bill when you can get free electricity from the sun. They're going to force you to build your home they want, so that way you have to go to their hardware store and you have to pay the fucking tax man to come inspect your domicile. Yeah, it's illegal to live off-grid, and that is, I mean, I don't know how that's not tyrannical. Can you explain? I can't.
I can't either. And I mean, I do understand some regulations. I mean, for instance, we're in a dry climate now. And certain things could turn into a fire hazard, right? So restricting certain things makes sense. However, it doesn't make sense on a federal level, because right now we're in this dry, high-altitude desert climate. What if we were in some swampy land? Then, you know, it wouldn't be as much of a fire hazard, whatever the X is.
And even then, the fire hazard, we consent to being in that home. You know, we consent to living in that structure, so...
So if the home inspector came by and said, hey, this isn't up to code, a better thing instead of fining you would be making a note that, hey, we made this person aware this isn't safe. Therefore, if something happens, you're not allowed to use your insurance. I mean, I'd be okay with that. You know what I mean?
And maybe you're on the hook if it starts a wildfire. Like, you're on the hook for the bill.
Right. Just some sort of notation. Because, you know, a lot of people... You get a new house, you spent all your savings, right? You get it all built, the inspector comes in, and you can't spend that last $5,000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You should be allowed to do that at your own time. You're the one living in that house. You're the one at danger. In cases of row homes or townhomes, they call them. A townhome or a row home?
Well, I don't know what a row home is, but a townhome, I do know what it is.
This must be a Baltimore thing. We call them row homes in Baltimore.
Is that because they're in a row?
It's because they're in a row.
Oh, that's funny.
So for row homes, because I said it, I get that, because if you start a fire in your kitchen, bam, it spreads to the whole neighborhood. And for those things, again, just consent, let the neighbors know. Maybe the neighbors want to chip in and help that person get their out of code electricity fixed.
Well, I mean, if you're renting, then it's on the landlord.
Then it's on the landlord.
But we're not. We're living off grid on privately owned land.
For very minimal green cotton rectangles.
Cotton rectangles, because they're not paper, are they? Money is made out of cotton.
I didn't even realize that.
What's up, Peter Yeeple? And OD Dub. Yeah, Florida off-grid is a no-go. It's true. That's because they took Florida, this beautiful state, tropical, and then they just poured concrete and asphalt over the entire thing, except for the Everglades, which is just swamp anyways. So yeah, they need you. They need your dollars. They need your dollars.
That's what it is. I mean, let's think about it. Like, so, I thought about this as a little child. I remember driving down the highway, and in Baltimore on the Beltway, especially in the fall time, if you look off the highway when the leaves aren't on the trees, you can see like how many tents are popped up, right?
Oh yeah.
And I remember asking my police officer father about this, and him explaining that these people, it's beat, we need to pack that again, that these people can be arrested. And I remember that just blowing my little 4-year-old mind, like, for what? They're the ones going without. They're the ones who made the decision to be. Can't you at least let them be comfortable in whatever situation they're in? Or maybe they're just somebody who says, hey, a tent is a happy enough existence for me. That's fair. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. I mean, you don't have to do that. But if you decide not to do that, they're still going to hit you with fines in order to make sure they get that same dollar amount from you that they would be getting from you if you were paying into the system through utilities.
Right, and so these poor people who have no money are supposed to pay the government because they have no money.
It just doesn't make sense.
What the fuck, dude? That's like the bank charging you for not having enough money in your bank account, right? Like, oh no, sorry, you're too poor. We're going to go ahead and take more money from you.
I don't get this. Kudos to, I'm not going to say, kudos to certain banks for not charging overdraft fees anymore.
Did you hear what USAA did? Mm-mm. So USAA is this bank that is exclusive for veterans and military members and their loved ones and their families to bank with them, and they have pretty good deals on car insurance, home insurance, and even bank accounts, right? So veterans who had negative balances or who owed the bank money got their stimulus check, and USAA kept them.
What?
They kept the stimulus check because they owed them money, right? So here you have the situation where you have poor veterans in a crisis, many of whom lost their jobs, needed this money in order to feed their kids, and didn't get their stimulus check, and now are having to quit their jobs in order to take care of their families because they can't afford the daycare anymore.
You mean the same veterans that once upon a time voluntarily signed up for a military under the assumption that they would be protecting their community? They volunteered to
possibly lose their life for their community and their neighbors and their country, and this bank, who supposedly supports them, took their stimulus check during a global crisis.
What do you know?
I'm not shocked. I'm a disabled veteran. I have been shit on by this country more since I became a veteran than before. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that the private sector has also followed suit. It kind of goes to show, as far as the homeless thing too, there's pictures going around of Vegas, right? Las Vegas, all the hotels are closed, right? You could fit at least 100,000 people on the strip from all the hotels that are there. So many hotel rooms. And where do they have the homeless people who are needing to social distance?
Sit down for this one.
Where are they putting them? Are they putting them up in these closed hotels?
Do you think maybe they built like a pavilion for them to stay under and be dry? Those are cheap, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty cheap. Do you think that they're putting them in shelters? No, they're putting them in tents in parking lots and making them sleep outside with the strip in the background. That's their view. All these empty hotel rooms. And they're like, nope, you're too poor. You have to still stay outside during this global pandemic. I have some traveling friends of mine who have gotten free hotel rooms from some cities One buddy of mine got put up in a hotel room for 2 weeks because he's a nomad. He travels via backpack and with his thumb in the wind, and they gave him a 2 week hotel room. Meanwhile, you have other cities like Las Vegas who are putting their homeless people in parking lots at the foot of the strip.
When just one of these hotels could facilitate every single one of the people in those parking lots. Just one of them. And not even a whole hotel. Like a quarter of the hotel be filled up.
You could probably put one in each hotel in Vegas.
Yeah, and I understand, right? The hotels may be scared, right? They're like, well, what about possible damage? Tell me that there's not at least 4 of those hotels that are under active construction. And if you're worried about, put them in the rooms that you're getting ready to upgrade anyway, right? I mean, there's ways to plan around these things, I would think. And I'm really shocked that I would expect, if not just for the publicity alone, and I would do it for the compassion and empathy personally, but if not just for the publicity alone, I'm shocked that like Hilton or Marriott or one of the big guys hasn't come out and been like, hey, if you're homeless, we'll house you for free through Corona, just for the pat on the back. Again, hopefully for the empathy, but I am really shocked that not one hotel chain has really stepped up and said, hey, we're going to do what we can to address this crisis.
We're going to do the right thing. That's what you would expect to hear from
small business owners.
Decent human fucking beings. That whether it's private sector or not, you would expect to hear that from decent human beings. We're going to do the right thing. And we didn't hear that in Vegas. We haven't heard that from the law enforcement of our country during a global pandemic, during a global crisis.
Embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. And I see it trickling down to the community. Everybody is being so ugly to each other.
Because they're scared. Fear has always been used. Throughout history, fear has always been used to take away people's rights. They did it after 9/11. They've done it during every global pandemic we've ever had. That's how the Nazis ended up convincing their own people that the Jews were responsible for their economic system. The Jews were responsible for losing World War I. They did it through fear, and that's what justified the Holocaust, because of fear. And maybe this isn't the same because we're not rounding people up yet and putting them on train cars and murdering them. However, it is the same principle. They use fear to take away your rights.
Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. They used fear through the civil rights movement. They tried to paint the entire black community out to be violent criminals, which all of us know is bullshit. Violence exists across all race, gender, creed, religion, and I don't care lines. Violence is just like a human, unfortunate thing. They tried to do it with the AIDS epidemic in the 80s when I was a kid. Thank God my parents were open-minded and, non-judgmental human beings. But yeah,
they did it with women's suffrage when women were wanting the right to vote. They were scared because women actually made up a majority in our country, right? Men at the time were minorities. Women had so much more voting power. They were so scared that women were going to change our country for the worse that they wouldn't let them vote. And lo and behold, here we are. Things are fine. The world didn't burn down because women were allowed to vote. They used your fear to try to take away your rights, and it's still happening. Nothing's changed. And if you let them, you don't deserve your rights. That's my opinion. You don't fucking deserve them.
And I don't want to hear the, well, let's see what happens thing. Because back in 1937, when they announced prohibition and everything, everybody's like, oh, well, let's see what happens. There are still people today, a good population of this country, who honestly think that cannabis will somehow kill or hurt you. They're real. They're out there. It's almost been 100 years since we started that little whisper in the ear telephone game thing that cannabis is bad. And there are still residual impacts from it, regardless of all the movements. I mean, there has been legal cannabis in California to some extent, which, by the way, was the first state to criminalize cannabis.
Wow.
The irony.
That is ironic, since most of the cities in Southern California actually have Hispanic names.
They were the first ones to try to pull that stunt. And yeah, they've had some sort of laws for legal cannabis since 1995. 1995. Good guess. Some of you guys watching weren't even born then. Okay, so think about that. You weren't even born yet. So your entire life, there have been some level of legal cannabis law, regulation. And there are still people out there that, regardless of the science and all the education we have now, think that it will hurt you. If we let this get any worse, we're going to see this 100 years down the road from here, where people are actually going to be like, oh my God, that person's not wearing a face mask and they want to kill me.
And it's going to become normal, right? Like, I grew up thinking that weed being illegal was normal and okay, and it was, although I always had kind of a weird, like, that's not right. But that was normal, right? And normal being mob rule, and we all agree that this is supposed to happen. And in 100 years from now, what's it going to look like because of this COVID thing? If we don't come up with some sort of vaccination or treatment for it, they are going to make what they're doing right now worse. And they call it a slippery slope. We've all heard that before. It's a slippery slope, and we're watching them slide down it right now. And unless we all band together and stop them, it's just going to continue. And we can't do it alone. Everyone needs to do it. It has to be a group effort. And it starts right now, right this very second. You can start by hitting share, wherever that is on your screen. Hit share and let this word get out. Awareness is so important.
It is. And join in on the discussion too, you guys. There's a little bit of a delay, but we keep our eyes on the comments every single time we do this. Man, I really wanted to do this every day for the 30 days of 420, but
we got sick.
We got sick, man, or we had shit to do, you know, such is life. But you should be doing the same thing. Have a discussion with your network. Like, you guys watching me, there's people on your friends feed, right, in your community that aren't watching. So if you don't want to share this with them, share your opinions with them. Now's your time when everybody's sitting home, you know, just completely stuck in this, like, you know, neck down on my phone because I'm not allowed to go out thing. Talk to your neighbors.
But do it respectfully, because nobody wants to hear your anger. They're not gonna hear your anger. They're not gonna hear your message if you're angry. They're just gonna see the wall. So do it in a way that actually might bring people over to your thought process and be like, yo, are you doing this? Just ask them, are you staying home because the government told you to? Or are you staying home because your community needs you to? And if you're doing it because your community needs you to, then we can do this without the government forcing it. We can do it because we all have a shared value, that we value human life, we value our health, and we value our community's health. That's why we're doing it. We're not doing it because our governor said so.
No, and to this whole essential employee thing, right? You've got people out there going, if you go to Walmart, you don't care about other people's health. You need to stay away from them. Okay, fair. Let's pretend that that's accurate right now. So let's pretend that that's accurate. Well, healthcare workers are still required to be out in public. Why? They're the front line. They get paid the big bucks for that reason, just like any other first responder would, okay? Should, right? Because they're there to help in the event of that crisis. Are you telling me that the McDonald's employees that we're paying and shitting on at $5 an hour should be putting their lives in danger too?
You know, in North Carolina, to be a waitress, in a lot of places in the country, the federal minimum wage, if you're making tips, is $2.13. And that has been the same since I was in high school. Because I worked at a restaurant as a cook when I was in high school, and all our waitresses made $2.13. And now all of a sudden they're essential. Like, they make $2 an hour. They make $80 a week, a little bit more than $80 a week on a full-time schedule. And they're essential now, but we treat them like crap. Why is it that these people are essential and the church pastor isn't? Like, and I'm not a religious person whatsoever, but
who's making these decisions?
I will fight to the death for your right to practice your religion.
Go to church. Do that thing, because that makes your community better. Because while you're at church, you're probably, and every church I've ever attended has just like constantly food bags, food banks, free daycare, like any church that I've been in, and I'm not saying it's all of them.
And the churches I've been to have always been like, you know what, treat each other right. Like, that's the moral message they're giving, whether the dogmas, they're what you agree with or not. Most religions teach the same thing, love each other and treat each other. Why would you not want that in our life right now? Why would you not want that in your community? Whether you agree with it or not, why would the government not want that? And that's really the question that we should be asking people.
Yeah,
we got 9 people in the group. I don't know if everyone said hi. So if you're in here, say hi in the comments. What's up, Mac? Chef Mackie.
Hi, Mac.
Mac is one of our campmates here at Garden of Freedom. He has a YouTube channel, Mad Mac 91773. correct me if I'm wrong. If you look up Mad Mac and Mr. Piglet, Mad Mac, MADMAC, and Mr. Piglet on YouTube, you'll find his YouTube channel and see his journey throughout the last year or so, living off-grid and learning what he can. He's good.
Mac has agreed that he will let us give him a mohawk for fundraising purposes. And what are we raising funds for? For the upkeep of the Garden of Freedom. If you search out the Garden of Freedom on Facebook, you'll see what we're doing here. We are building a fully off-grid community out of geodescent domes. These are made from materials that, like, we could put one together, at least the skeleton of it, okay, in what, an hour?
An hour.
An hour, and then another 24 hours of concreting it, or you don't have to concrete. If you're in the right climate, you can just throw some plastic wrap over it.
Plastic wrap. If you have a different climate, you can use Adobe. Like, there's so much you can do with these domes. They're like those jungle gyms. Remember when you were a kid and you had the dome jungle gyms you'd climb all over? We actually have the ability here to manufacture them. So if anyone's out there off-grid that is interested in buying one, hit up Garden of Freedom.
Yeah, and it's not like you're living in a tent, so you go in there and you can lay down your wood floors after you build your dome. You can put a little subfloor in. You can do everything with this that you can do with a traditional house.
You can put plumbing in it. You can wire it for electricity, solar. Yeah, it's completely customizable.
Yeah. And for fractions of the dollar. And we're actually trying to start a movement of this through the creation of big igloo geodesic domes. BIGD. You get it?
Yeah, it's worth a Google.
Anyway, so as we're building that, we are doing what we can as a team to make this available to everybody. If you want to build something on your property and make it off grid, we have the supplies for you. We have the know-how. We can educate you. It's pretty awesome. You know what it is? It's community.
It's awesome.
Helping the community.
And if you live in an area where you don't want to build one off grid, that's fine. You can have one to build a storage shed if you want. You can have one to build a jungle gym for your kids in the backyard. They come in all shapes and sizes. Actually, one shape, all sizes. They're completely customizable. If you want one to hold your chickens in, you can do that. You can literally do anything with it. It's a structure to do with as you please. A greenhouse. Wow, what a brilliant idea. That's actually what we're doing here. Catching up on comments, Mac corrected me. It's Mad Mac 91775. Michael Ziska. Oh my god, I'm hacking your name up, aren't I?
Sorry, bro.
My bad. It's German, right? I'm guessing it's German or Swedish or whatever. But he says, I don't do anything because our so-called government says so. I'm doing it out of common sense. That makes so much sense, right? And I struggle to call it common sense because it's not common, is it? But it is sense. And you have the sense to know that you need to stay at home because your community needs you to, because your own health needs you to, because we're in a global crisis. We don't need the government telling us to do this. We don't need them to protect us from ourselves.
Yeah, you're writing a death sentence for some families by shutting their business down. They're not going to be able to recover from this.
It's going to take a long time for the economy to recover. It really will. I mean, if you look at throughout history, we have never faced something where the entire world's economy just stopped. Within a month, the entire world's economy stopped. We've seen it in isolated incidences throughout the world, like in this country. They ended up having some sort of major conflict and their economy stopped. We've seen it over here. I mean, World War II, there was still the majority of the world not at war, even though they called it World War, and their economies were continuing. In fact, that actually brought our economy out of the Great Depression. But we've never seen it where everybody just stopped, or at least look at the weekly unemployment rate throughout all of American history since the 30s, I believe, is when they started unemployment compensation. Well, they just started it. It didn't exist before. And yeah, thank you, Mike. Sheska. And it's Polish. Okay.
Yeah, we know from like Shaska. Was that like a soda?
Shasta.
I'm trying to do like I am such a pothead, and my short-term memory is about the size of the width of one of my hairs and names. If I ever butcher your name,
it's on purpose.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. really am. I didn't even remember my father's birthday until I was like 32, which is impossible because I'm only 25.
Again?
I'm gonna go fill up my coffee, you guys. Hang tight. That thing is clogged like a motherfucker.
I know, I just poked it.
What are you guys smoking on? Drop your strains. Drop your commentsies.
And we are smoking on, I believe this is jet fuel.
Jet fuel!
Jet fuel! Putting a little fuel in the tank. I think we're going to use a different pipe because this one is clogged.
Oh, hold on. I'll get that for you.
Like Fresca. Oh, that's it. Sheska Fresca. Yeah. Nobody gets it right. That's okay, dude. There's a lot of vowels and SCs and stuff in there that's not very American. My last name is Seahorn, and when my family immigrated here from Germany, it wasn't Seahorn, it was Zahan, Zehaun, and then the post office actually were like, you know what, that's not American enough, and they changed our last name, so go figure.
Go figure. Yay, America. Just take everybody's identity. Whatever.
We're going to Americanize you.
My last name's Jane.
Mary Jane! I love the Mary Jane. Yeah. So, what's going on in your communities? In what ways have you seen either people doing the right thing or government doing the wrong thing?
Yeah, show us some links, and you guys, if you see something, say something, right? If you see some example of tyranny or overstretch of power in your community, hit us up. Actually, Platoon 420 is now up. GIMaryJane.com is not, but Platoon 420 is up. There you can take the pledge. You actually, let me pull it up and read the pledge because short-term memory, right?
While you're pulling that up, I'll just mention, a lot of people are going to say, well, how do we stop these people who aren't social distancing? How do we prevent them from spreading the virus? And I don't think we need the government to do that either. I do think that they should be social distancing, but if they're not, our community should shame them. I think that it'll take a cultural influence, not a government influence, to make sure that we can overcome this pandemic. It's going to take us going, you know what, you idiots, get off the beach. We're in a global crisis. We don't need the police to go make you criminals. We're just going to make you out to be fucking idiots because you are.
Remember when you were in school and that bully that was just way out of line was in your face like, oh, your mom and blah, 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 blah. When you rolled your eyes and walked away, what happened?
He beat me up.
Really? See, in my experience, he shut the fuck up.
I like the analogy when you were in school. Did you hold your farts? Of course you did, because it's not publicly acceptable to fart in fucking front of everyone.
No.
And that's what people are doing when they're going out on the beach, right?
Because you're polite.
They're farting in public, and we all shame and laugh at them and embarrass them for it. We don't need the police to go arrest you for farting in public.
Exactly.
We just need to shame you so you hold your farts when you're in private.
I like that analogy, right? You could even go with the nose picking thing, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, it's gross to pick your nose in public. How many germs do you spread by picking your nose in public?
All of them.
I bet you 80% of the population does it every single fucking day. Every single day. You don't lock people up for picking their nose, do you?
No.
No. You just, when you see somebody in public pick their nose and put their hand out, you go, bro, you just picked your fucking nose, and you do it loud enough for everybody to hear, and everybody looks at that person and goes, blah, and then that person goes, well, fuck, maybe I shouldn't do that again.
Right, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We don't need the police to tell us what we should be doing in our communities and what we shouldn't be doing. We need to do it for each other. Like, it's really simple.
I don't like the word shame, though. I get it. It makes sense, but I mean, I don't think we should shame anybody. We should just not follow suit and hold to our own morals and lead by example more so than shame.
You only have influence over yourself, maybe your children. Teach them the values that you hold. Michael Shiska says, I unfortunately ran out of session materials. And he says supposedly beaches in Florida are supposed to be opening back up this weekend.
That's good.
Maybe good, maybe bad. I guess time will tell. You know, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some infectious disease expert. I'm hoping that the people that decided that are, not likely, but I'm hoping, you know. And if And if it does open up, I bet you watch, some people will show up, most of the community won't, and they'll shame the people who do. And that's how we're going to get through this, not because we're making criminals out of people.
Does Bill Gates have a medical background?
Bill Gates, does he have a medical? No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's good at making computer viruses, but not so good at stopping, biological viruses.
Who's good at blocking computer viruses?
McAfee!
John McAfee, tomato. My mom's
not McCafe. That's fucking McDonald's.
John McAfee, the creator of McAfee Security Systems. I don't know if you guys just heard, but he joined the Adam Kokesh American Referendum Project. We got 2 dead lighters here, but we have 2 lit flames in these 2 guys, so make sure you check that out at thefreedomline.com.
I bet you Michael has a lighter. No weed. We got weed, no lighter.
Oh, Michael, we need you to come over here with a lighter.
Come to the Garden of Freedom. Help us with the community. We need hands.
And back to platoon420.com. You guys can visit there if you want to get involved, and you don't have to leave your house to do so. Involvement is just connecting and communicating with all of us, like this network, right? Like the spider web. Right? Let me know. I'll make sure to let the community know, and then they'll tell 2 people, and they'll tell 2 people, and they'll tell 2 people. That was an awesome ad back in the 80s. But if you go to platoon420.com, you can take the pledge, and let us know the following. Have you heard the pledge yet?
I have. Go ahead.
I will stand tall in the face of tyranny for the best interest of myself and my community. I denounce the archaic drug laws that have made victims of the people they were written to protect, and I will not support any legislation that regulates what a person puts in their body. And that is the Platoon 420 pledge, and it has been up on the site for months. You click take the pledge. You can register as a civilian or as an organization. If you're an organization that agrees, we will blast you. Free promotions. If you're a civilian, we will know to communicate with you when something is going on. And again, I'm going to say it because it's so pertinent to what is going on right now. And I swear, hand to God, this was written over a year ago. So the civilian platoon 420 pledges, I will stand tall in the face of tyranny for the best interest of myself and my community. I denounce the archaic drug laws that have made victims of the people they were written to protect, and I will not support any legislation that regulates what a person puts in their body. And the only way I could think to update this right now to be more relevant would be to change it to what a person does with their body, because that's what we're seeing right now. They're telling us when we can and cannot move.
What we can wear.
What we can and cannot wear. My buddy Bill Massey, who runs an awesome promotion musical thing in Baltimore, posted the other day that he left work early on Friday because there were too many people at the job site, and it was just pointless for him to be there. And he told the boss, he said, "Hey boss man, I'll come in on Sunday, right? When there's nobody here, I'll come in, I'll whip, 6 hours worth of shit out in 3 hours, right?" Boss man said, okay. Bill hops in his car Easter Sunday morning and goes driving down 695, 70, I don't know, whatever Maryland highway you want to pick, and was pulled over, showed the officer his little permission slip, right? His gold star. Yeah, it's that serious. I'll go there. Showed the permission slip that he was essential and he was able to drive. And the cop said to him, "No one's essential today, buddy. It's Easter. Go home or I'll ticket you."
Ticket you.
And what would have happened if Bill refused to take that ticket?
They would have used violence on him, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
So either you pay us,
yeah,
or we beat you.
If he refused to take that ticket because taking that ticket doesn't, seem to fall in line with the Constitution, Bill of Rights, whatever. Then they would have asked him to come to the station with him. Had he refused, they would have put their hands on him. Had he had defended himself against somebody putting their hands on him when he did not instigate any violence, they would then get violent with them. This is what these laws are doing. Okay, it's not about what's smart, what's not smart. You make that decision for yourself. And we're big kids. Like, if you guys really think that we need regulations to remind us how to stay healthy, you are giving the human race way, way, way too little credit. I mean, seriously, do you think we're that stupid as a collective humanity?
So which rights did they violate in that? Let's see. They violated his religious right to being able to be out on Easter. Whether he's religious or not. It was Easter, and they said nobody was essential on Easter. They violated his freedom of movement, because you have freedom of movement in our country. You're allowed to go. They can't banish you from a county or a city or a state. You're allowed to move, and they violated both of those constitutional freedoms.
So to the movement thing, and you made me think, like, every time you have a libertarian argument with somebody, they're like, but who's going to build the roads if we don't have taxes? Well, private corporations would do that. That's kind of what we do. We would build roads. You know, it would just be private companies. And then when shit like this happened, the private company would be able to say, no, you're not shutting down our road. There'd be no strong arm control availability for the federal government to restrict our movement, because they do technically own those roads, even though we own those roads.
They don't, yeah. Just like they don't own any land either. We own the land. That's public land, even though they're closing them down.
We have given them the power to regulate it. And if they are misregulating it, we have the power to call the manager.
Yeah, I don't even like the regulation. Like, we give them the power to maintain it, to take care of it. They're caretakers of our land, and they're telling us that we can't use it, and that's horseshit. Complete horseshit.
It's not cool. It's not cool.
Ernesto on the jack this. I'm not even gonna say your last name, Ernesto. He asks, "What is your curfew time lockdown at the moment?"
We don't have one.
Yeah, we don't have one where we're at. I think it's not very socially acceptable to be going out at certain times. Although I don't get the curfew thing. Most people are at home anyways. Where are you gonna go at 8 o'clock at night when everything's shut down? You can't go to the bar. You can't go to a restaurant and sit down and eat. You can't go see a movie. I guess in New York you could go play golf, but you're not doing that at night anyways. So where the hell are you going at 8 o'clock? What's the point of the curfew? It would make more sense to be like, you know what? If your social security number ends at this digit, then you can go out between these times. That seems very extreme. Pretty extreme, but nevertheless, that'd be more effective than, no, you can't go out after 8. Like, come on. There was that town that they used sirens to signify when their curfew started, and they accidentally used the sirens from the movie Purge. Yeah. The Purge. So let the purge begin. We were having some fun with that here at Garden of Freedom yesterday.
Yeah, we were. With the air horns. And in this case, you guys always hear me knock the federal government, right? I can't knock the federal government. They're kind of staying out of it. The feds haven't made any regulations. They've made recommendations. It's the state governors that some of them are going way overboard, and some of them aren't doing enough, and some of them are doing exactly what's needed for their community, which may not be what's needed for the other community. So this is like just the perfect example of localization, right? Not the dividing of the United States. We are all united in values. Of
course. Period.
We are absolutely united in values. Don't hit, don't steal, don't kill. We know that, right? Why do we need somebody to remind us that? Our community reminds us of that. Our actions remind us of that.
Our culture reminds us of that.
We don't need somebody telling us what's good for you might not be good for another person, do we?
Right, and I don't often agree with Trump. Like, that's really hard for me to do because the man's just so vile. But in regards to this, he said that the buck stops at the governor. Like, he also contradicted himself and said he had all the power, which we all know he doesn't.
That was cute.
But
cute little chest puff, bro.
Yeah, he said that the buck stops at the governor's. And so this is really the first time I've ever seen him behave like a conservative who believes in states' rights. The first time I've ever seen it, I'm kind of blown away, completely in support of that decision, because the United States is fucking huge. It's a huge country, especially compared to most other countries. Most other countries are about the size of our states. And then in Europe, when each country is able to regulate what they need within their borders, it was much more effective. And that's what Trump is doing here. He's letting the states, the governors, which I don't know if any of you know this, but the governors of each state is technically the commander-in-chief, the president of that state, right? We just don't call them presidents because we have this whole constitution. Anyways, they're the ones that are deciding how they're going to handle it within their own borders. Here in Arizona, they're not being very aggressive in regards to the coronavirus. They're letting the people decide. They have shut down essential businesses, non-essential businesses.
I can't go to the gym. I'll continue
Yeah.
to bitch about this.
We're not
The
gonna go to
gym
the
is
bar.
essential to some people for their head, dude. I'm just...
Yeah, I agree. But they're...
AA meetings aren't even allowed to meet. Like, they're allowed to Skype, but that might not be enough for somebody. Like, that human contact may be what's keeping you healthy, right? And the states are taking that away. So what I encourage you to do is, if you don't agree with the way your governor and your representatives are handling things in your state, instead of, doing this or this all day on your phone, right? On Facebook and social media, which, I mean, keep doing that, but do a split. Spend half of that time, maybe a third, reaching out to your representatives and reaching out to your governors and letting them know what you think.
It doesn't take long. I've actually already done it in regards to a couple of issues. We have the power of voice, right? We always have in our country. And our representatives, whether they listen to us or not, we still have the power to voice our opinion to them. And they do get elected, even though they're lobbied and they're bought. We're still the ones who vote for them. And they will listen to us if enough of us say, yo, enough is enough. Mm-hmm. We'll maintain social distancing because we need to, not because you said so. Quit making people criminals. It takes 5 minutes to message one.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
That's it.
Go to their website, hit email or contact us or whatever. Pick which category you want to tell them and give them your opinion.
And then, you know what? Screenshot their response if you want. Like, I'm not saying...
If they respond.
If it's your business and you don't want to spread it, that's fine. But if you want to empower your community, screenshot that email and screenshot their response. If they don't give you a response, right back. And I'm saying this after 5 years worth of lobbying experience. My job in my head for 2 hours every morning for years was to wake up and go down a list of which governor and which representative and which senator was pro or anti-cannabis bill, and calling them and talking to them and asking them why. And if not them, their secretary, because their secretary tells them, especially if you keep bothering them. It's not bothering them, guys. It's talking. That's why we elect these people. We are almost there, man. Chris Cole just tuned in late. Chris Cole is the director of Victims of Family Law for Kokesh. Definitely look into that. The child support scam is a scam. Is not good for the kids in any way, shape, or form, unless the child support payments are voluntary by the parent who is able to make them. But our current system is a scam, and Chris Cole and Victims of Family Law for Kokesh can tell you why. Adam is actually coming on in like 3 minutes, so
go check him out.
I don't have the lighter. I mean, I'm sure. Oh,
of course she has the lighter.
Of course I have the lighter. Oh, so yeah, we've got a couple of minutes left. Thank you guys for, joining the discussion. Please join the discussion. We're going to do our best to be here every day, either at 11 o'clock Pacific or 2 Eastern, or 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. And that's...
To recap real quick, don't forget, Quarantine Potheads, a group of about 10,000 people, muted G.I. Mary Jane because she wanted to share this feed with them. So go ahead and let them know what you think. They've got a few admins.
They do. Let them know that right now what we need is to be able to reach out to our community.
To be inclusive.
And their group is awesome with the 11,000 people. Like, everybody could be live feeding in there when they're just sitting home smoking their blunt by themselves. And then somebody else... communication, right? You got compassion, you have an exchange of information and energy, and this is a good thing, and we need this right now.
But they censored it. Quarantine Potheads.
They were like, oh, and
sorry, can't do that because Facebook will shut us down. No, they won't.
We only promote our own events.
No, they fucking won't.
Okay, if that's fine. I left the group because
me too.
I just don't want to be involved. I want to be involved with groups that are connecting the community with each other. I love it. I mean, that's how we are here at the Garden of Freedom. I will not accept anything else in my life. And you know what? I didn't decide that until about 5 years ago. So if you haven't decided yet that you're not going to accept the negativity, you can do that whenever you want. You control who you surround yourself with. Yep, that's it. That's it. And speaking of who you surround yourself with, Chris Cole, can't wait to see you for the big coronavirus wedding between Mr. and Mrs. Kokesh,
yeah.
America's last president and the last lady of the United States, Lolis.
Yep.
Lolis.
Dress, if you're coming, dress in your Armageddon gear.
That's it. That's it. And we are going to celebrate togetherness without the government, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't think we need the government.
We don't need the government for those things either. It's kind of...
I can govern my damn self.
I'm a strong, independent human. I don't need no damn government. Now, we do need governments to some form. We'll have that discussion tomorrow.
Sure.
But this big, like, strong arm fucking beast that just, like, lurks over the top of the totally unnecessary. It's creepy and rapey, and I'm not going to accept it.
I'm not going to consent either.
No, I do not consent.
I am going to drink this fucking coffee.
Hell yeah. All right, I'm going to shut up, drink more coffee, smoke more weed, and see what Adam has to say, right? Is it Friday? It is Friday.
All day.
He only goes Monday through Friday, and he is consistent because, I mean, you have to be consistent if you're going to go after and try to shut down the entire federal government. It requires some level of consistency, right?
I guess so.
I guess so. All right, guys, peace and love. Reminding you to pass joints, not judgment, because we are all in this together, and we are all inside together right now. So get on your live streams, talk to your neighbors. Any plugs?
Nope.
We're out. Kisses.